everybody, I am back with another project. We have today, we're going to do a wax resist project. There are lots of different ways that you can use wax resist. We talked about it a little bit on the first one. Remember we did, this is an example. This is where the wax resist was. So you use your white crayon and you draw pictures or draw something and then paint over it, and the watercolor does not attach where you have used the crayon. So you can do just kind of an abstract line design. I did this one. I had a lot of fun with this one. This one I drew kind of some swirls and turned it into leaves. I did lots of different layers. So I would let it dry and then paint some more and let it dry and paint some more. And once it was dry, you see how I added like little details and things along the wax, along the crayon. I did that after it had dried some. So you can play with that and try that out. This was a fun one that I need to put in the mail with my Father's Day card from my dad, because even though I'm a grown-up, I still make cards for people because it's fun. So I made this for my dad, so you could do something for your dad because Father's Day is coming up before long. This one you can't see the wax as well, but the lighter colored lines are where it is. And so I filled in some of the sections with different watercolor techniques. And then this is the one that I did while the kids who were here live were watching. This is just kind of a name sign. I figured I don't have much of anything hanging on my wall in my art room, so maybe I'll hang this up because it has my name on it. So I am going to show you guys, I'm going to do another name sign, but you are welcome to do all sorts of things. I think one of the kiddos drew some flowers and did kind of like a field of flowers. A couple of people did signs. One of the kiddos did an eyeball. You can do just about anything you want. The thing to remember with the crayons is you have to go kind of dark, or kind of not dark because it's white, heavy with your crayon. You have to push a little bit hard, which is why all of my crayons have broken because I pushed a little hard. So I'm going to make a sign for one of my kiddos because I think he would really like it. So I'm going to do his name. So that's the first thing. And I'm pushing pretty hard. Unfortunately, you can't see it because it's white. But when you're looking at your own paper, you should be able to see it enough to know what you're doing. And you will get some little dots of color on top of the white. This one showed it pretty well. If you look really close, it's not a solid white line because some of the color attached, you know how crayon's not. Crayon doesn't really color totally solid. So that is what happens there. Let's see, what letter am I on? Ooh. Okay, so I wrote my kiddo's name, which is Trevor. And I'm going to do some painting. So the cool thing about this is once you've got your crayon, then really you can do just about anything you want. I'm going to do a whole bunch of different colors because this dude loves all the colors of the rainbow. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is get water in my colors. So I'm just going to put a drip or two of water in all the colors. So then I've got all my colors ready to go. Don't forget that you can mix different colors in the lid, and also be sure to get fresh water so that you don't end up turning your yellow brown because you've got murky, yucky water. And then you put it into the yellow. Yellow is the weakest color. It's not as strong, so it gets covered up more easily. So if you put dirty water into the yellow, it'll turn your yellow a yucky brown color. So I'm going to start with blue because that's my guy's favorite. I go right across the name, and you can already see where a line of what I wrote is. It showed up really quickly. So once you decide what you're going to do, you can do all sorts of fun things. Use all the different techniques that I showed you guys last time. You can do some wet on wet. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do wet on wet. So remember, that is where you use your clean water and you paint an area of your paper with water, only water. Make sure it's clean or else you'll turn your white paper to a murky brown color. And then you can get one of your brushes with paint on it. I like to use my little tiny brush. It's called the detail brush when I'm doing wet on wet, because that gives me a nice little point and I can do some detail things that then in the wetness will feather out and look pretty cool. So I'm going to do just some squigglies here on the wet paper and see how it, right here you can see it's fading out, and you can see it dripping as I'm holding it sideways. You guys should probably tape your paper down. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. I'm not taping my paper purely because I want to be able to lift it closer to the camera to show you stuff, but it will turn out a lot better for you if you guys tape your paper down before you get started. I'm just doing a whole bunch of little zigzaggies and mix different colors so they can blend together. Fun. Another thing that I forgot to show you guys last time was it's called lifting. You can, what I do is get fresh water on my brush and put a drip of water on somewhere that I've already painted. That it doesn't have to be totally dry, but it needs to be not soupy wet. And then if you use a clean brush, pick up that dot of water, lift it up, you can basically erase where the water was. You can erase the paint from that area. So I'm making this little white spot. I can pick up all the color. Well, I can pick up most of the color that was in that area. So now if I wanted to, I could go back in and paint another color over that. Let's see what will happen if I just do some more green. I'm gonna keep going to get all my letters showing. And we'll see what other kind of fun stuff I can make happen in here. My R came out a little funky, but that's okay. Trevor. All right, so we got this name here. I'm gonna blend it into my wet on wet. I like rainbows, so I'm gonna do rainbowiness. You guys don't have to go as quickly as I'm going. I am, since I've done lots of watercolor stuff, I can just kind of zip around. You can take your time. You can let stuff dry and come back to it later. You can do all sorts of different things. If you let things dry, then you can like layer more layers on top, which is kind of fun. I'm going to go over some of my wet on wet with yellow and just see what happens here. It'll probably blend a little as it dries. It's kind of fun to just play with it and see what happens. I like experimenting, so it's a lot of fun. You can see, so here you can see all my letters that I've got on the side. And now I'm just going to play around and have some fun. I am going to use some of the different techniques. I'm going to do some intense colors along the top, some dark, rich colors, and then sprinkle salt on there. So that is what I'm going to work on now. I'm going to do blues and greens and make kind of a turquoise and teal colors. To get really dark, rich colors, you just need to put water in your paint and let it kind of soak for a little while so you get lots of pigment, which is the technical name for the color in your paint is pigment. Lots of blue, green, and I didn't mix in my tray, but another thing that you can do is you can mix right on your paper. If you're just kind of playing around, I can, some of this blue is turning kind of teal colored, blue green, which is a color effect. Blend out to the edges by just getting water on my brush and kind of blend it out and fade it. You guys can do pictures, you can do words, you can do all sorts of stuff. I tend to like funky abstract stuff, which means it's not really a picture. It's just sort of colors and designs and stuff. So I'm a big fan of abstract. So that's where I go. I usually just do silly things. Ooh, I like how that purple blended with the green and made some neat colors there. So now while this is still pretty wet and it has really intense color, I'm gonna get some pinches of salt and sprinkle it on here. And remember, with the salt, you have to let it dry all the way before you take the salt off. But once it's dry, it does such a cool effect. It looks kind of, I think it looks kind of like snowflakes, which is a lot of fun. I'm going to show you examples up close. You can see the kind of snowflake situation. This one is from the bigger pieces of salt, and this is from the little salt. I'm just using the little salt because I ran the big salt. You can use whichever kinds, or you can use both. You can do all sorts of stuff. I think on the bottom over here, I'm going to do more reds and oranges, and then I'm going to use a plastic bag and do the crinkly bag technique I showed you guys, where you just use kind of a piece of a grocery bag or just about any kind of plastic. You can use like saran wrap or cling wrap, whatever you have at home. I just like to use grocery bags so that I'm not wasting extra plastic. It's already plastic that I have around. saturate this area with lots of paint. You know, lots of paint, then the crinkly stuff with the bag shows up better. Okay, now I've got a good bit of paint there on the bag, and I'm gonna find, I used this one already, so I want to find a spot that doesn't have paint on it because I don't want the other colors that I've used in the past reattached to this paper. I did a few, I got some blue speckles. That's okay. Put my crinkly bag down. Press it really good. And then I peel it up. You can see all the little crinkly lines from the bag wrinkles. And if you look at the bag, you can see all the paint that's still on there. So be sure to set that down somewhere where it isn't going to make a mess. Well, that's kind of cool. I got some blue splashes in there and it made some neat things happen. I like that. So let's see. I just have a couple more areas. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'll just play with it. Do a little more wet on wet because a lot of my wet got blended in with other stuff, which is totally fine. Some wet. And if you paint over stuff that's already starting to dry, you can blend it some. The neat thing about watercolor is that it is never, it's dry, it can dry entirely, but it is never to a point where you can't do more to it. You can always get it wet and change things up. I'm gonna do some yellow in here. And do kind of little feathers. Start with yellow and to orange. Kind of like little rainbow feathers here in the corner. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm looking. It's hard to tell where the camera's pointing sometimes. Red, I'm going in rainbow order. One of the things we talked about in the little video that, or in the group of kids who painted with me, is a few different color mixing things, and one that isn't straightforward with watercolor is pink, because to get pink you mix red and white, and when you look at your tray you notice, hey, there's no white there. And that's because if you want a watercolor to be lighter, you just mix water. You just use more water. So you just use a little bit of red paint and a good bit of water, and that will get you pink. You can do the same thing with any of the colors. If you want really light green, you just use a little bit of green paint and a lot of water. So that wouldn't have much saturation, like I was talking about how you wanted. So if I'm going to start here with really intense green. So I've got lots of paint on there. Now I'm going to dip my brush in the water, and I'm going to paint a line right next to it. And that one is a little bit lighter. And I'm going to dip my brush and swirl it around a little bit. And now you've got a really light green. So you can kind of tell the difference. The more water you add, the lighter a color will be. So if you want pink, let me show you guys. So we've got nice dark bright red. I'm going to dip my brush around and swirl it. And now we've got kind of a pink color. So pink's not the easiest to get in watercolors, but you can definitely do it. All right. I think I am about finished here. If any of you guys have any questions, please feel free to post them in the Facebook group, or you can send me an email or a message, or send Family Strengths a message. I'm one of the people who checks those, so I can easily answer any questions you guys have. I think I'm totally done. So I'm going to let this dry before I take off the salt. And if you have your paper taped down, be sure to let it dry all the way, because it can tear easily if you pull it up, pull the tape off while it is drying. So thanks a bunch, and I'll see you guys next week when we do our silhouette painting with a sunset and hot air balloons. And I'll tell you guys all about silhouettes and what those are next time. I hope you guys have a good week. Bye-bye.